Here's a theory that's going to blow your mind. Sound effect. Did Israel attack Iran because of what they just discovered buried under their mountains? We're talking about the most advanced mineral discoveries on the planet right now. In March 2025, just months before Israel's attack, Iran announced they discovered massive antimony reserves after 10 years of looking for them, 10 years of exploration. Mining discovery attempts take ages, right? Drilling, sampling, etc. But that's just the beginning. In April 2025, Iran then opened its first monazite production plant, marking a breakthrough in rare earth element processing. Sorry, I stumbled there because monazite is very unfamiliar to my tongue. They're now producing 17 different rare earth elements, refining with best-in-class purity in some of those fields. These aren't just shiny rocks. Antimony is critical for flame retardants, something used in rockets and jet exhaust systems, and for putting out or preventing fires in aircraft and ships, for example, military applications and advanced technology. I'm not going to. China controls nearly half the global supply, and prices are skyrocketing for these minerals. Iran just became a major player, essentially, overnight. But the real game changer? Iran's rare earth elements could, in the future, mean that between Iran and China, over 92% of refined rare earth elements are produced here in East and Central Asia. These are the materials that power everything from smartphones to missile guidance systems, right, to renewable energy technology like solar and wind power, their turbines, electric vehicles, all of it. Anything technological, you need rare earth elements. China currently produces over 90% of the world's refined rare earth elements, giving them unprecedented technological control of the refining of the industrial, the manufacturing process behind this. Now Iran is positioning itself as a potential support supplier. Both are in the global south. Both are obviously, China and Iran are very close and are closing in further in terms of military and economic cooperation. That will include technology transfer. Fun fact, Trump struggled with the US-China trade war, not only because China has diversified their trade away from America since Trump was last in office, when he also tried slapping tariffs on the Asian giant, but China also controls refined rare earth element capacity. You need to take the rare earths out of the ground, then you need to refine them. And China refines even the rare earth elements that America uses, right? Their rival, if you will. Everything needed for cutting-edge technology, including the crown jewel that's currently and in the future will likely be contested, advanced AI chips, computer chips, semiconductors. Without Chinese rare earth elements, the US would falter and eventually buckle in this critical industry. You can't get access to rare earths without going through China, basically. So, to a great extent, 90%, right? So the tariffs have been rolled back. The tariffs Trump imposed, he had to roll them back. He had to back down, not China, which was historical. Now back to Israel and Iran. Here's where the timing gets suspicious. Iran made these breakthroughs in March and April of 2025. Israel then launched its strikes just a couple of months later, in June of the same year. Iran isn't just sitting on oil anymore, you see. They're sitting on the raw materials that will define the next century of technology. They've got the minerals needed for electric vehicles, batteries, wind turbines, advanced military systems, like I mentioned before, space technology like satellites, including weaponized, militarized satellites. With Iran's strategic partnership with China, these discoveries could completely reshape global supply chains, keeping the vast majority of future raw minerals and processed minerals needed by all countries in the BRICS bloc, not the G7 or the Western world, right? The advanced economies of the days gone by. Imagine Iran being supported by China to develop their rare earth element refinement, or shipping, Iran shipping these rare earths initially, let's say, to China for the refinement. In both cases, powerful Eastern technological advancements would potentially keep these players as industry leaders, and the Western world is unlikely to be able to compete. The places where the Western world does compete economically, because I'm very interested in the economics of everything and supply chains and logistics, even though that's quite boring to basically 95% of the human race, I'm very interested. For example, semiconductor supply chains. Semiconductors are one of the leading things that the West has over China, but if you go and look at the fabricators, i.e. where the semiconductors are made, the factories, they're all in Asia, right? They're all in Taiwan or South Korea or Japan. So even there, America has allies in those countries, but geopolitically, I talk about geography a lot. Those are all East Asian countries right next door to China, right? So the US and Israel suddenly face Iran, not just wealthy from oil, but strategically indispensable in future technology supplies. So when Israel talks about stopping Iran's nuclear program, are they really talking about stopping Iran's nuclear program? Or are they trying to talk about stopping Iran from becoming the next mineral giant aligned with China and extremely formidable, where sanctions have potentially over 50 years made Iran lean and very scrappy and very flexible, but then they get access to the BRICS, the global south market anyway. So lift sanctions or don't lift sanctions, Iran becomes formidable. It might go through an economic boom. So, Israel thought time to get on it, right? Because controlling rare earth elements means controlling the technological future, and Iran is well positioned as an ally of China. Now, my answer is, the question right at the top here. No, it's not directly the reason Israel attacked Iran, these minerals. It's not the reason. But it's all part of the closing window for Israel. It all contributes. They need to destroy Iran before the US leaves the Middle East for good to focus on China in the Far East. And strategic minerals is just another thing in Iran's future that threatens Israel's future plans for the region and for itself. Its future ambitions to dominate the region, maybe expand its own borders, Great Israel style. Right, Greater Israel style. Even once America has left for good, Israel wants to be able to stand on its own 2 feet against any potential adversary. And right now, the bastion, the last hurdle to that regional dominance, because the other countries are well within America's sphere of influence, so it sees Iran as the last bastion that stands outside of its control, outside of the control of Big Daddy USA. So better strike now. Better strike Iran now better strike Iran now in a desperate gambit, even if it's desperate, to drag the US in before it's too late and the US leaves, and then, you can't fight Iran by yourself, which is what we're seeing now, actually. Trump dragging his heels and Israel getting more and more upset, essentially, at a government level, saying, we can't continue taking the missile hits to our cities. We're having to censor the Israel intelligence censor, the Israel military censor, I made a video on it, is cracking down. Israelis are facing 30 months in prison if they record something where a missile maybe hits the ground and it's actually a military target. They're getting potentially jail sentences handed to them to shut them up, right? To shut them up. So, there's panic in Israel, and the US is still not stepping in, even in response to that panic. I'll talk about what's going on in the US with regards to whether or not they will join this war or not in the next video. So has it worked? Has Israel been able to neutralize Iran's capability of nukes and its capability of minerals development? Well, time will tell. It depends who ends up winning this war. But whatever happens, I'll report to you the news and the analysis, unbiased and without the Western spin, even when it's 32 degrees in London and we have no air conditioning because I am not rich. I'll see you on the next one.